Well, from an English point of view, I'm gutted about that. I'm gutted about it. I thought it was a great match, maybe not a classic, but a kind of classic Six Nations arm wrestle, high stakes, big moments. So overall, it was a great match, but I feel gutted from an English point of view. And actually, for both sides, are some of the same questions remaining that we had about them coming into the championship. That's one of the main themes for me off the top of my head with the full-time whistle having just gone in Dublin. Welcome back to the channel. Give me your thoughts. What did you make of Ireland? What did you make of England? And any of the points that I touch upon as well. As I say, from an English point of view, I had such hope after that first half. 5-point lead at half-time for England. They had to defend pretty resolutely. Ireland put them under a lot of pressure. But the second half, mistakes, discipline and Irish quality is ultimately what came to the fore, and they got the bonus point victory. So give me your thoughts. Whilst you're here as well, like the video and hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel so then you won't miss a thing. I'll start off with Ireland. And I suppose I'll start off with the second half, really, because I think that's going to be the story here. Like, fair play to Ireland for the performance in the second half, the execution of their game plan in the second half, which was just simply better, and being able to put themselves in a position to win the game. Because certainly in that first half, I thought England dictated the tempo better. It was England that were able to, I suppose, ride out the moments of pressure that Ireland put them under. They were winning big turnovers, England. That sin bin period, they did excellently to hold out for the majority of it. And you felt to me anyway, like it was a game where England were in a great position in. But the best sides, when they're up against it, are able to find the answers. And I'll get onto that in a minute in regards to England, because I think that's a problem for them at the moment, continues to be a problem for them. I thought James Lowe, as frustrating as he is when he's playing against your team, was excellent for Ireland. Made some such important breaks down the left-hand side. It was an absolute nuisance. His left boot. I thought James Lowe was very, very good, and Jamison Gibson-Park as well, who was the player of the match. Their attack just functioned better in that second half, I think, from an Ireland point of view. But that maybe brings me on to one of the overall themes for me, is to what extent are their questions still remaining? A big question about Ireland coming into this, besides Andy Farrell not being there, was did we see them drop off in the autumn? In particular, their attacking game not looking as slick, not looking as dynamic or incisive as we've seen previously. And I think there's still an element of that. That's why I think for them and for England, there are still question marks over exactly where they are. In the second half, give them major credit. The tries they scored, some of them brilliant as well, like some classic Irish tries, isn't it? When they have those lovely lines, breaking through the middle, don't get touched, one pass and they're in for the score. Like the Ty Burn one in particular was absolutely crucial. So I suppose for the Irish fans that follow the channel and watch this video, my question for you is, how many questions remain that you had previously? How many of them have been answered? Because I feel it was a very similar Irish performance to what we saw in the autumn and in November, which was a team that weren't quite at their best, but for the most part were able to win test matches. Because time and time again, this Irish team, in recent games anyway, haven't necessarily been at their best, but they have won test matches, and I will reiterate credit to them for being able to do that. But if they're coming up against France later on in this championship, do they need to be better? Maybe so. France were very good in beating Wales, but they still weren't absolutely perfect either. So maybe everyone's building in to the championship. Momentum is just so important and so key that ultimately getting the bonus point victory is pretty much the be-all and end-all. But I just wonder whether there will still be some little questions over where this team is. Let me get on to England, though. Great first half, as I've said already. It was almost, when Steve Borthwick's England have played well, it was what we saw in that first half, which is going up against a really good side, having a game plan and being able to execute it. Their physicality was awesome. Their kicking game was much better in the first half. I thought they started to struggle a bit under the high ball in the second. They executed the game plan. They put themselves in positions. It was a real arm wrestle, but you thought that they were competing well. And I wondered if they were about to have an almighty scalp to start this championship. But then you get into the second half and I think they just dropped off, like their execution wasn't as good. And in particular, their discipline. They were getting penalised. It was penalties going against them. I don't know what the penalty count was, but I think it was way in favour of England giving away the more penalties. And I don't think it decided the game. I do think they were hard done by on a couple of occasions. I thought the two pushes were really soft decisions, which ended up leading to a score. And actually the one that I think is worth mentioning, partly because of the decision, but partly because of Maro Itoje's captaincy actually, was the Chandler Cunningham himself when he took Keenan in the air. Correct decision to give a penalty. But James Lowe then came steaming in and pushing Chandler Cunningham himself. Previously, when Ben O'Keefe had said, anyone comes in pushing and shoving, it's a penalty against you. For me, I think straight away England had to be on that and be saying, hang on a minute, you said this previously, should you reverse it? And I think Itoje as the captain, I don't know if he did. I didn't see him on TV go up to the referee and do that. He may have done, I might have missed it. But if he didn't, I think that's the sort of thing when we're looking at the captaincy and with Maro Itoje, you have to be drawing the referee's attention towards that. So I think a few frustrating decisions for England that went against them, but not ultimately the reasons that they lost the test match, I don't think. I think that would be too much of a stretch to say that. In terms of players, I thought the Curry boys were absolutely immense. Like, they give you so much physicality. They're both so good. Tom, we've known about for a long time. Anyone who's watched the Premiership and follows Sale know about Ben as well. I thought they were both very good. Generally, the forward pack, actually, I thought their physicality was excellent. And unfortunately, we've got to have a chat about Caden Murley. What a brilliant moment, 8 minutes into your test debut, start of the Six Nations, away in Ireland, against a great Irish team, and you score your first try. But the second half performance, he really struggled. And it feels harsh in a way to pick on a guy, but there were a couple of massive moments, not letting the ball run dead, deciding to pick it up, trying to run it out. England end up getting pushed over their line, 5 metre scrum to Ireland, and then picking the ball up over the line and not dabbing it down later on in the half. Under the high ball, he wasn't great. I don't think his positioning was brilliant. And at this level, you get exposed. And it was really obvious, I felt, in that second half. So I really like Caden Murley. I've enjoyed watching him for a long time, but I thought he had a pretty torrid second 40 minutes in that game, in all honesty. Those are the details. When we boil it down from an England point of view, I think a big part of the frustration will be that the same questions remain, as I've hinted at already. They're able to compete with the best sides for real chunks of the game, but then drop away. If you look at I think it's their last 9 games now, which goes back to the France game at the end of the last Six Nations. They've played 9, they've won 2 in that time. The 2 wins are against Japan. The other tests are 3 against New Zealand, 1 against the Wallabies, 1 against France, and this one against Ireland. And another one, I think, South Africa as well, in the autumn. For the most part in those games, England have been competitive, often put themselves in the lead, put themselves in a position to try and win the game, and not been able to do it. And that's where there's continually, I think, going to be questions about this England team. Being able to stay in the fight and see it through. They can compete with the best teams, they're just not getting over the line often enough. And it's happened often enough now. That's a pretty major question for this side going forward. They've got a huge challenge next week in playing France at Twickenham. If they start this Six Nations 0 from 2, then all the noise, all the negativity around the team is going to be pretty massive. It will be pretty big after this game anyway. It will be even bigger if they do end up losing that game to France. So, yeah, frustration from England. Some great stuff in there. Great stuff in the way in which they applied themselves. And then they can't see it through. Despite being in a position where they're in the lead. Fell apart a little bit in that second half, I felt, from an English point of view. I'll leave it there. I will chat more on it, probably. Both of these teams, plus the first round of the Six Nations later on, maybe tomorrow, once I've had a bit more time to think of it. But kind of full-time whistle, those are my initial thoughts on it. What do you make of it? In particular, the overarching questions for both of these teams. Are there still question marks over Ireland, despite a really strong victory? Or, Ireland fans, have some of your concerns, if you had any, been dealt with there? And England fans, I'd imagine a lot of you will be feeling similar to me. Pretty gutted, similar questions, similar frustrations. They're so close to being a good team, but at this level, you've got to get yourself over the line. Let me know. Comment down below, like the video as well. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.